The Galactic Xenobiology Institute floated serenely in the void between star systems, its crystalline spires catching the light of distant suns. Within its halls, beings from hundreds of worlds gathered to study the universe's most dangerous phenomena. Today's lesson would prove more enlightening than anyone expected. Professor Kethfer adjusted his 6 arms nervously as he surveyed his diverse class. The Centaurian scales shimmered with anticipation. Deathworld studies was his specialty, though he'd never actually visited one. Too dangerous, naturally. His students represented 23 different species, from the gossamer-winged ethereals to the rock-like granite folk. In the back row sat Maya Chun, the only human in the program. She'd arrived 6 months ago on an exchange visa claiming Earth was a Class M agricultural world. Her application had been approved without much scrutiny. Humans were new to galactic society, and Earth seemed unremarkable on their star charts. Today, we examine the most terrifying worlds in known space, Kethvar announced, his translator collar rendering his clicks and whistles into standard galactic. Deathworld's planets so hostile that evolution itself becomes a weapon. Maya shifted in her specially reinforced chair, designed to accommodate her dense bone structure. She'd grown used to being different here. While her classmates needed environmental suits for slight temperature variations, she wore only light clothing. While they consumed carefully balanced nutrient solutions, she'd shocked the cafeteria staff by requesting actual food with texture. Our first example, Kethvar continued, projecting a hologram of a hellish landscape, is Vaxxer Prime. Gravity 3 times galactic standard. Atmospheric pressure that would crush most beings instantly. Native life forms that secrete acid and hunt in coordinated packs. The ethereal student, whisper of stars, trembled at the mere image. Professor, surely no sentient species could evolve on such a world. Indeed, young whisper. The Vaxorians evolved from prey animals, developing incredible speed and cunning just to survive each day. They're considered the most dangerous beings in known space when encountered alone. We've never documented more than one Vaxorian in the same location, as their territorial instincts prevent cooperation. Maya raised her hand. What about pack hunters? Surely some Deathworld species learn to work together? Kethver's scales darkened with concern. Miss Chung, pack-hunting predators from Deathworlds are theoretical nightmares. A species that combined individual lethality with group coordination would be apocalyptic. Thankfully, such evolutionary pressure would be so extreme that no world could sustain it. Maya nodded thoughtfully, remembering her weekend hunting trip with her dormmates, though they'd called it hiking to avoid alarming anyone. She'd been impressed by how easily they tracked and cornered that escaped laboratory creature, working together like a well-oiled machine. The lesson was just beginning, and Maya found herself curious about what other impossible traits her species supposedly possessed. Asterisk, our second case study, Professor Kethfer announced, his excitement palpable as he gestured with 4 of his arms, involves the legendary persistence predators, purely mythical, of course. The hologram shifted to show a barren savanna under a harsh yellow sun. Imagine, if you will, a creature that doesn't rely on speed, strength, or venom. Instead, it simply follows, for days, weeks if necessary. It lacks the burst speed of proper predators, but it never stops, never tires. It tracks its prey across vast distances until the target collapses from exhaustion. The crystalline student, structure of light, chimed melodically in distress. Surely such relentless pursuit is impossible? All creatures must rest. Precisely why it's theoretical, Kethvar agreed. The metabolic requirements alone would be staggering. A creature would need incredible endurance, advanced cooling systems, and the psychological fortitude to maintain pursuit despite setbacks. Most importantly, it would need to be intelligent enough to track across varied terrain while predicting its prey's movements. Maya tried to keep her expression neutral as she remembered her marathon training back on Earth. 26 miles had been considered a moderate challenge among her friends. Her dormmate Zara, a Centaurian, had been horrified to learn humans ran for recreation and couldn't understand why. Maya's heart rate barely elevated during their walks to class. "But Professor," interjected Gromnir, a stout being whose species resembled ambulatory boulders, "wouldn't such a predator need to survive in multiple environments? Persistence hunting across different terrains would require incredible adaptability. Another impossibility." Kethver's scales brightened with academic fervor. "Specialization is survival. A creature adapted for forest hunting couldn't survive in desert conditions, and certainly not Arctic environments. The metabolic adjustments alone would be fatal." Maya thought of her childhood vacations skiing in Colorado, surfing in Hawaii, hiking in the Amazon with her biologist parents. She'd assumed all species were similarly adaptable until arriving at the academy, where her classmates required elaborate life support systems to visit different sections of the station. "Now, let's discuss the most terrifying theoretical death world. Trait," Kethval continued, his voice dropping to a dramatic whisper. "Imagine a species with pursuit cognition, the ability to model their prey's thoughts, predict behavior, and adapt hunting strategies in real time. They would study their targets, learning weaknesses and fears, becoming more dangerous with each encounter." The class fell silent. Even Maya felt a chill, though for different reasons than her classmates. Such creatures would be the ultimate predators, Kethvar concluded. Thankfully, the neural complexity required would make them incompatible with survival instincts. High intelligence typically correlates with reduced aggression and increased cooperation. Maya shifted uncomfortably, remembering her psychology courses back home. Humans were indeed highly intelligent, but their history was filled with warfare, competition, and strategic thinking applied to conflict. She thought of chess grandmasters, military strategists, and detective novels, all examples of humans using their intelligence to outthink opponents. "For our next session," Kethvar announced, "we'll examine the ultimate impossibility social. Deathworld predators. Creatures that combine individual lethality with pack coordination, environmental adaptability, and strategic intelligence. A fascinating thought experiment in evolutionary impossibility." As the class dispersed, Maya lingered, staring at the holographic displays of theoretical Deathworld characteristics. Each one felt like a mirror reflecting humanity back at her. She was beginning to understand why Earth's classification as Class M agricultural world had raised so few questions. The truth was too terrifying to believe. 3 days later, Maya found herself in the Academy's biolab with her study group, preparing for their practical examination. Dr. Vexhai, a spider-like being with 12 delicate limbs, had designed what she called a harmless simulation to test their understanding of predator-prey dynamics. "You will observe and analyze the hunting behavior of preserved specimens from various worlds," Dr. Vexhai explained, her mandibles clicking with academic enthusiasm. "Your task is to predict which hunting strategies would be most effective against different prey types." Maya's teammates included Whisper of Stars, the nervous ethereal, Gromnir, the philosophical rock being, and Zixtal, a proud reptilian whose species prided themselves on being apex predators of their homeworld, despite subsisting primarily on fruit. "I shall demonstrate superior predatory instincts," Zixtal declared, puffing out his colorful throat. "Sack, my ancestors were feared across the jungles of Scalen." The first specimen was a Vaxorian hunting simulation, a holographic recreation of the acid-spitting pack hunters from Professor Kethvar's lecture. The team watched as the creatures surrounded a large herbivore, using coordinated attacks and chemical warfare to bring down their prey. "Fascinating," Gromnir rumbled. They use environmental advantages and superior numbers. Maya nodded absently, but her mind was elsewhere. The Vaxorian tactics reminded her of a nature documentary about African wild dogs she'd watched as a child. The pack coordination, the strategic positioning, the way they worked together to exhaust larger prey, it was almost identical to hunting strategies humans had observed and studied for millennia. Your turn to analyze the next specimen, Miss Chun, Dr. Vexhai announced. The hologram shifted to show a creature from the ice. World of Kryax, a white-furred predator that seemed to appear and disappear against the snowy landscape. Maya watched it stalk a herd of creatures that looked like six-legged elk, noting how it used terrain, wind direction, and patience to position itself perfectly. It's using persistence hunting, Maya said without thinking. See how it's not rushing? It's making the prey nervous, forcing them to move, but always staying just out of reach. It's waiting for one to separate from the group or show weakness. Her teammates stared at her in amazement. How did you deduce that so quickly? Whisper of Stars asked, her translucent wings fluttering with excitement. Maya realized she'd made an error. I studied the theoretical frameworks from class very carefully, but Dr. Vexhai had noticed something else. Miss Chun, you seem to have an intuitive understanding of predatory behavior. Have you considered specializing in xenobiology? Your insights are remarkably sophisticated. The next specimen made Maya's blood run cold. It was a recreation of earth-footage wolves hunting in Yellowstone National Park. But the label read, Hypothetical Pack Hunters from Theoretical, Deathworld Gamma 7. Maya watched her own planet's wolves demonstrate the impossible combination of intelligence, coordination, and persistence that Professor Kethvar had declared mythical. Her teammates were horrified by this simulation. Such creatures would be unstoppable, Zixtal whispered, his throat sac deflating with fear. They adapt their strategy mid-hunt, communicate silently, and never give up. Thankfully, it's merely theoretical, Dr. Vexhai assured them. No world could produce such perfect predators. Maya remained silent, remembering camping trips where she'd heard wolves howling in the distance. Her parents had always spoken of them with respect, not fear. On Earth, humans and wolves had coexisted, competed, and eventually formed partnerships. Some of humanity's closest companions were descended from those very perfect predators. As the lab session ended, Maya realized her secret was becoming harder to maintain. Every lesson revealed another way her species defied galactic understanding of what was possible. She was beginning to wonder what would happen when her classmates discovered they'd been studying alongside a creature from the very Deathworld nightmares that haunted their academic theories. Asterisk, the emergency alarm echoed through the academies. Corridors at 0347 hours, station time. Maya jerked awake in her dormitory, immediately alert, a reaction that would have terrified her roommate Zara if the Centaurian hadn't been paralyzed with fear. Hull breach in Section C, the station's AI announced in its calm, measured tone. Containment failure in Xenobiology Lab 7. All students report to emergency shelters immediately. Maya's enhanced hearing caught something the others missed, scratching sounds in the walls, growing closer. She'd heard similar sounds during a cave exploration back home, when a bear had been investigating their campsite. Zara, we need to move now, Maya said, grabbing her doormate's trembling form. The shelter protocols say to wait for escort, Zara whispered. Moving during containment breach is forbidden. Through their door's small window, Maya saw chaos in the corridor. Dr. Vexhai was directing evacuation efforts, her 12 limbs coordinating multiple tasks simultaneously. But Maya's pattern recognition, honed by millions of years of survival evolution, spotted the flaw in their plan. They're herding everyone toward Section B, Maya realized. But whatever escaped is hunting. It's going to cut off the main route. As If summoned by her words, screams erupted from the corridor. A creature burst into view. One of the theoretical specimens from their recent lab work had somehow become very real. It stood 8 feet tall, covered in chitinous armor with 6 limbs ending in razor-sharp claws. Its hunting behavior was exactly as the simulations had predicted: intelligent, patient, and absolutely relentless. Professor Kethver stumbled into view, his scales pale with terror. "Impossible," he gasped. The Mordak specimen was supposed to be dead, preserved in stasis. The creature, apparently a Mordak, tilted its head, studying the fleeing beings with predatory calculation. Maya recognized the behavior immediately. It was evaluating which targets were easiest to catch. "Everyone stay calm," Dr. Vexhai called out, though her own voice trembled. "Back away slowly. Don't run. Sudden movement triggers pursuit response." Maya watched in growing horror as her instructors and classmates followed advice that was exactly wrong. The Morduck wasn't like Earth predators that might be confused by stillness. This creature was from a death world where prey had evolved sophisticated evasion techniques. Standing still just made them easier targets. "No," Maya said quietly, then louder. "That's wrong. It's not going to lose interest." The Morduck's attention snapped to her voice. For a moment, predator and human regarded each other across the corridor. Maya felt something she hadn't experienced since arriving at the academy, a familiar, adrenaline surge of a dangerous situation requiring immediate action. Her mind shifted into what her psychology professors back home had called crisis mode accelerated. Thinking, enhanced focus, and the ability to process multiple scenarios simultaneously. It was a mental state her classmates would have recognized from Professor Kethvar's lectures about theoretical Deathworld cognition. "Whisper, can you create a light distraction to your left?" Maya called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Gromnir, when I say now, roll toward the emergency supply closet. Zara, stay behind me." "Miss Chun," Professor Kethver protested weakly. "Students shouldn't." Maya was already moving. Not with the panicked flight her classmates expected, but with purposeful, predatory grace. She grabbed a maintenance tool from the wall, not as a weapon, but as part of a larger strategy. Her human brain was calculating in real time. The Mordak made its choice and lunged not at the largest target or the closest, but at what its death world. Instincts identified as the greatest threat. It lunged directly at Maya. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Maya smiled. Her classmates were about to discover that their theoretical studies had a very real application sitting right in their classroom. Asterisk. What happened next would be analyzed in xenobiology textbooks for generations, though the official reports would struggle to explain the statistical anomaly of the outcome. Maya didn't flee from the Morduck's charge. Instead, she did something that violated every galactic understanding of prey behavior. She stepped forward to meet it. The maintenance tool in her hand wasn't meant as a weapon, but as a lever. At the precise moment of impact, she used the creature's own momentum against it, redirecting its trajectory into the reinforced wall with a technique her human brain had extrapolated from judo principles. The Mordak hit the bulkhead with a resonating crash, stunned but not defeated. Maya was already moving to phase 2 of a strategy she'd formulated in the 3 seconds between seeing the creature and engaging it. "Whisper, light burst now," she called. "Gromnir, emergency phone dispenser." Her classmates, despite their terror, found themselves responding to the confidence in her voice. Whisper of Stars created a blazing display that temporarily blinded the Morduck. Gromnir's massive form activated the fire suppression system, filling the corridor with dense foam. But Maya wasn't finished. While the creature was disoriented, she began what her teammates would later describe as impossible tactical coordination. Moving through the foam with uncanny precision, she herded the Mordak toward a section of corridor she'd memorized during her first week in area, where maintenance panels could be quickly reconfigured to create a containment field. Zixtel. Emergency lockdown on section 7C through 7F, she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. Dr. Vexhai, can you activate containment protocols from your position? The spider-like professor, despite her shock, found herself following Maya's instructions. Within minutes, the Mordock was trapped in a makeshift containment area, confused and frustrated, but no longer a threat. As the emergency teams arrived, Maya suddenly realized what she'd done. The corridor fell silent, except for the creature's angry chittering behind the containment field. Her classmates, professors, and the security team were all staring at her, with expressions ranging from awe to dawning terror. Professor Kethvar was the first to speak, his voice barely a whisper. Miss Chun. How did you know to do that? Maya looked around at the faces surrounding her beings who had spent months studying theoretical Deathworld predators without realizing they'd been sitting next to a real one. There was no way to explain away what had just happened. She began, then stopped. The truth was unavoidable now. I'm from Earth. The silence stretched longer. But Earth is classified as a Class M agricultural world, Dr. Vexhai said weakly. Maya shook her head. Earth is a death world. Gravity 1.2 times galactic standard. Atmospheric pressure that requires adaptation for most species. We have persistence predators, pack hunters, and social coordination because we evolved alongside them. We learned to think like predators because we had to survive. Groundnir's rocky features shifted into what might have been comprehension. The theoretical traits Professor Kethver described aren't theoretical, Maya confirmed. Humans are pursuit predators with environmental adaptability and strategic intelligence. We hunt in coordinated groups, and yes, we model our prey's behavior to predict their actions. We had to develop those traits because our planet is home to creatures that make that Mordak look like a house pet. The emergency team exchanged glances. One of them, a being Maya didn't recognize, stepped forward. Miss Chun, the security chief said carefully, we're going to need to file a very detailed report about this incident. And I think the Galactic Council is going to want to have a long conversation about Earth's planetary classification.